My mother raised her glass in front of 60 relatives and said, "I want to be honest tonight. Every family has one regret. Mine is sitting right there." She pointed straight at me. The room went silent. Forks hit plates. My cousins looked away. A few people let out these awkward little laughs like they weren't sure if she was joking. She wasn't joking. She never joked about me. She thought that was my lowest moment. She thought I'd sit there, swallow it, and disappear like I always did. She had no idea what I had on my phone. My name is Jolene. I'm 34 years old. I work as a paralegal at a small law firm in Richmond, Virginia. It's not glamorous work. Nobody claps when I walk into a room. But I'm sharp, and I'm detail-oriented, and those two things have saved me more times than any compliment ever could. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My older brother, Derek, was always the favorite. The one they praised at every dinner table, every holiday, every chance they got. He could walk into a room and my mother's whole face would light up like Christmas morning. My older sister Tanya was the social one. She married a man with a good job and a nice car, and that was enough to earn her a permanent seat at the table. Then there was me, the quiet one, the average one. The one who got B-minuses and worked weekends through community college while everyone else was handed things on silver platters. My mother, Vivian, is the kind of woman who treats family like a stage production. Everything is about image. Everything is about how things look to the outside world. She runs the extended family like she's directing a show, and every one of us has a role. Derek is the star. Tanya is the supporting actress. And me? I'm the prop nobody bothers to dust off. My father passed away when I was 19. Heart attack, no warning. He was the only person in my entire family who ever looked me in the eyes and told me I was enough. Just the way I was. When he died, whatever small place I had in that family died with him. I wasn't the pretty one. I wasn't the successful one. I wasn't even the interesting one, according to them. But I had something none of them expected. I pay attention. I always have. And people who get ignored, we see everything. If you've ever been the quiet one in a loud family, the one nobody checks on because they assume you don't matter, subscribe to this channel. I want you here. Drop a comment and tell me you relate, because I promise you're not invisible. Let's go. Let me take you back to that night. My grandmother's 75th birthday dinner. My mother had organized the whole event at a rented hall downtown. 60 family members packed into one room. White tablecloths, centerpieces with fake flowers. The smell of catered barbecue and perfume mixing together until the air felt thick. Everyone was dressed up. Everyone was smiling. My mother stood at the head of the longest table I'd ever seen, and she was glowing. This was her kingdom, and she knew it. She started her toast the way she always did, by talking about Derek. She called him her pride. She talked about his job, his future, his ambition. Then she turned to his girlfriend, Monique, who was sitting right next to him with this perfect little smile on her perfect little face. My mother said, "Monique, you are the daughter I always wished I had, and I have a feeling we'll be calling you family very soon." She winked at Derek. The room erupted in cheers. People clapped. Aunts squealed. Derek grinned like he'd just won an award. And then my mother's eyes found me. The warmth in her voice disappeared like someone flipped a switch. "Not every child turns out the way you hope," she said. Her voice got quieter, but somehow everyone heard it even louder. "Jolene, you were my mistake. I say it with love, baby, but some truths need air." A few people gasped. My Aunt Patricia put her hand over her mouth. But others, and this is what hurt the most, some of them nodded, like they agreed. Like they'd been thinking the same thing and were just relieved someone finally said it out loud. Derek smirked. Tanya examined her fingernails like the whole thing bored her. Not a single person in that room opened their mouth to defend me. Not one. I sat there with my napkin balled up in my fist so tight my knuckles went white. The room felt like it was shrinking. The sound of clinking glasses and whispered conversations blurred together into this low hum that pressed against my skull. I pushed my chair back, quietly excused myself, and walked to the restroom. I locked the door behind me and pressed my back against the cold tile wall. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. And then my phone buzzed. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. No name, no introduction. Just a screenshot of a text conversation and one line of text above it. You don't know me, but you deserve to see who your brother's girlfriend really is, and who he really is. I opened the screenshots. My breath caught in my throat. The texts were between Derek and someone named Calvin. They were intimate, romantic, the kind of messages you send to someone you love, not someone you're hiding. Derek had been seeing Calvin for over a year. And Monique? She knew everything. She was being paid. Paid to smile, paid to hold his hand, paid to play the role of the perfect girlfriend for the family's little performance. I stared at my phone for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not from anger, from the weight of it. The weight of knowing that everything my mother had built, every trophy she polished, every pedestal she put Derek on, was built on a lie. And I was holding the proof. The weeks after that dinner were some of the hardest of my life, but not for the reasons you'd think. The humiliation at the birthday party was just the beginning. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my apartment going through some old paperwork my father had left behind. Tax documents, bank statements, things I'd never bothered to look at because grief had a way of making me avoid anything with his name on it. But something caught my eye. My father's life insurance policy. It was modest, nothing life-changing. But it was supposed to be split 3 ways between me, Derek, and Tanya. I pulled the payout records. I cross-referenced them with the bank statements I could access. Almost the entire sum had gone to Derek. Thousands of dollars funneled directly into his account over the course of 2 years. I got barely enough to cover 1 month of rent. I called my mother. I kept my voice steady even though my chest was burning. I asked her about the money. She didn't even hesitate. Your father would have wanted the money to go where it would actually make a difference, she said. You don't even have a man to build a life with, Jolene. What would you do with it? I hung up without saying another word. That was betrayal number 1. Betrayal number 2 came the following week. I was texting Tanya about something unrelated, and she casually mentioned a family vacation to Myrtle Beach that was being planned for the summer. I had no idea what she was talking about. What vacation? I asked. She paused for a long time before replying. Oh, I thought you knew. Mom said you'd just bring the mood down. You know how you are. I went to look for the family group chat. It was gone from my phone. They'd removed me. I scrolled through my messages and realized I hadn't received a single family update in months. Birthdays, dinners, Sunday plans, all of it had been happening without me. I'd been erased, and nobody thought to tell me. Then came the worst one. Betrayal number 3. A few days later, my mother called me out of the blue and invited me to Sunday brunch. Just the 2 of us, she said. I remember feeling this tiny spark of hope in my chest. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she wanted to apologize. I showed up at the restaurant wearing the nicest blouse I owned, and there were 6 family members already sitting at the table. And next to my mother was a woman I'd never seen before, a woman my mother introduced as a life coach and family wellness consultant. It wasn't brunch, it was an ambush. For the next 20 minutes, this stranger asked me questions about my goals, my attitude, and my relationship with my mother. In front of everyone. She tilted her head and said, with this soft little therapist voice, What do you think is holding you back from being the woman your mother needs you to be? I looked at my mother. She was nodding along like this was completely normal, like she was doing me a favor. I picked up my purse, stood up, and walked out. Nobody followed me. But that night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the screenshots from the unknown number, and I started doing what I do best: research. I spent the next several days cross-referencing everything: names, dates, social media profiles, financial records. I was a paralegal. This was my language. I didn't react emotionally. I built a case. I let the facts speak, and I wrote everything down in a journal that I kept locked in my desk drawer. What the family didn't know was that I'd been doing this quietly for 3 weeks straight. Night after night at my kitchen table with a laptop, a notebook, and a cup of cold coffee that I kept forgetting to drink. I confirmed Calvin's identity through mutual connections and public social media profiles. His location check-ins matched perfectly with Derek's so-called business trips. Charlotte, Atlanta, Savannah, every city, every date, lined up like puzzle pieces clicking together. Then I found the Venmo trail. Derek had been sending Monique payments every single month, consistent amounts. And the label on every transaction was the same word: arrangement. Not rent, not a gift. Arrangement. I also discovered something that made my stomach turn. Some of the insurance money my mother redirected to Derek had been used to lease a second apartment on the other side of town. The lease was in Derek's name. The payment schedule matched the insurance withdrawals almost to the dollar. That apartment was where Derek and Calvin spent their time together, funded by money my dead father left for all 3 of his children. What they didn't know was that the quiet daughter they called a mistake had been building a file thicker than any case at my firm. Every lie, every dollar, every fake smile. I had receipts for all of it. I didn't want revenge for the sake of cruelty. That's not who I am. But my mother stood in front of 60 people and said that some truths need air. Fine. I agreed with her. I was about to give her more honesty than she could stomach. 2 days after the brunch ambush, my phone rang. It was my cousin Ray. Ray was the family's other outcast, a tattoo artist who'd been practically disowned after she dropped out of college to pursue her art. Nobody invited her to family events anymore. Nobody asked how she was doing. She was invisible, just like me. "Jolene," she said, "I need to tell you something. I'm the one who sent you those screenshots." I went quiet. She kept talking. "A friend of mine knows Calvin. I saw the texts, and I knew you deserved to see them. I'm tired, Jolene. I'm tired of watching Aunt Vivian destroy people and call it love. You're the only one in this family with a spine. Use it." Ray became my partner in this. She helped me organize the evidence into a clean, digital folder. She helped me sort the screenshots by date, match the Venmo payments with the lease records, and create a timeline that told the whole story without leaving any room for denial. We met 3 times at her apartment, going through everything carefully, making sure every single detail was airtight. Meanwhile, the family performance was reaching its grand finale. Derek announced a formal engagement party for him and Monique. My mother was beside herself with joy. She called relatives personally to share the news. "This is the proudest moment of my life," she told anyone who would listen. "At least one of my children knows how to make me proud." She didn't invite me. Of course she didn't. But she did something worse. She started telling extended family that I had mental health issues, that I was pulling away from the family by choice, that she'd tried everything to help me, but I refused. She was rewriting the story before I even had a chance to tell mine. Derek posted a long tribute to Monique on social media, a photo of the 2 of them smiling, foreheads touching, with a caption that said, "My forever." The comments flooded in. Heart emojis, congratulations. My mother commented, God bless me with a son who knows how to love. The whole thing was a stage play, and everyone in the audience was buying tickets. Then the final text came. From Tanya. Mom thinks it's best if you don't come to the engagement party. It's Derek's night, don't make it about you. I read it twice. I set my phone down and looked at Ray, who was sitting across from me at her kitchen table with the folder open between us. Oh, I'm coming, I said. And I'm bringing the truth with me. The engagement party was held at a nice Italian restaurant that my mother had rented out for the evening. White string lights hung from the ceiling. Soft music played from a speaker in the corner. The smell of garlic bread and wine filled the room. 50+ family members packed in together, laughing, hugging, celebrating the fairy tale that Vivian had written for them. My mother was in her element. She floated between tables like a queen greeting her court, touching shoulders, kissing cheeks, making sure every single person knew that she was the architect of this beautiful evening. I walked in through the front door wearing a simple black dress and flat shoes. No jewelry, no drama, just composure. The room noticed me before my mother did. Conversations stuttered, heads turned. Then Vivian saw me, and her face went from glowing to stone cold in less than a second. Derek leaned toward Monique and whispered, "Ignore her." My mother crossed the room fast, heels clicking against the tile floor. She stopped right in front of me and spoke through her teeth. "I told you not to come. Don't embarrass yourself again." I looked her straight in the eyes. My voice was calm and even. "You said some truths need air, Mom. Remember? At Grandma's birthday? You said that to 60 people while pointing at me. So tonight, I'm taking your advice." She blinked. For the first time I could remember, my mother didn't have a response ready. I walked past her and moved to the front of the room, near the table where Derek and Monique sat. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I spoke clearly, the way I spoke when I was presenting evidence at the firm. "Derek, I love you. You're my brother. But everyone in this room deserves to know what's real." The room went completely still. I could hear the ice settling in someone's water glass. Mom has spent years calling me the mistake, the failure, the embarrassment. She gave you Dad's insurance money, money that was meant for all three of us. She used it to fund a life that isn't even real. I held up my phone. I read the texts out loud. Messages between Derek and Calvin. Romantic. Tender. Unmistakable. I showed the Venmo payments to Monique, every one of them labeled arrangement. I showed the lease for the apartment across town, paid for with our dead father's money. "Monique isn't your fiancée," I said. "She's a paid actress in a play that Mom directed. And Derek, you've been lying to everyone in this room, including yourself." Derek's face lost all its color. He opened his mouth and stammered, You don't understand." Monique didn't wait for anyone to speak. She stood up, grabbed her purse off the back of her chair, and looked at Derek with exhaustion in her eyes. "I told you this would fall apart," she said. "I'm done." She walked out the front door without looking back. My mother was trembling. Her hands were clenched at her sides, and her voice cracked when she spoke. "How dare you ruin this family?" I turned to face her. "I didn't ruin anything, Mom. You built this family on performance and shame. You called me your mistake in front of 60 people. But the only mistake here was thinking the quiet one wasn't paying attention." The room erupted. Murmurs turned to loud questions. Aunts and uncles surrounded Vivian, demanding answers about the insurance money. Uncle Ray stood up and said, "Vivian, is this true? You took the money?" Derek sat down slowly and put his head in his hands. He didn't speak. He didn't defend himself. The show was over. Near the back of the room, I caught Ray's eye. She was leaning against the wall with her arms crossed and a quiet nod on her face. That nod said everything. It said, "You did it." I didn't stay to watch the rest. I walked out of that restaurant and into the cool night air. The sound of the door closing behind me felt like the end of a chapter I'd been trapped in for 15 years. In the weeks that followed, the family cracked wide open. Several relatives confronted my mother about the insurance money and demanded full accountability. Uncle Ray hired his own attorney. Tanya went quiet. She stopped posting on social media entirely. Derek moved out of state within a month. He never publicly acknowledged Calvin. But he stopped performing. He stopped pretending. And maybe, somewhere in that silence, he started being honest with himself. My mother called me 11 times in 2 weeks. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I needed to protect my peace. I'd spent my whole life absorbing her disappointment, wearing it like a coat I couldn't take off. I finally took it off. I got a small promotion at my firm that spring. My supervising attorney told me I had the sharpest eye for detail he'd ever seen. I smiled because that was the first time someone in a position of authority said something about me that actually felt true. Ray and I grew closer than we'd ever been. We had dinner together every Thursday. She was the family I chose, and choosing her was the best decision I ever made. My mother called me her mistake in front of the whole family. But mistakes don't build cases. Mistakes don't find the truth. Mistakes don't stand in a room full of people and refuse to be silent. I'm not her mistake. I'm the one she underestimated. And that's the most dangerous thing a quiet person can be. If your family ever made you the scapegoat, the one they blamed, excluded, and publicly shamed while hiding their own secrets, I see you. I was you. Subscribe to this channel because this is where people like us tell the truth. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and I want you to know you're not the problem. Standing up for yourself is tough, especially when it's your own family you're standing up against. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories like this. And remember, you are not what they call you. You are what you survived.